Hi, and welcome back to Lisa's Stamp Studio. I've got an adorable 3D project for you today using the mini coffee cups and the mini coffee cup carrier. And while my project is themed for Get Well, it can be used for the holidays as well as showers and favors for parties. I'm going to be giving you lots of tips along the way about using the dies for the wraps of the cups as well as decorating the box itself. And we're going to be including an adorable tag. I'm also going to give you some alternate ideas on how to use the mini coffee cups by themselves for party favors. If this is your first time visiting my YouTube channel, I would love to have you subscribe. Click the subscribe button down below, and next to it, if you click that small bell icon, you'll get notification when I'm live right here on YouTube, as well as when I share a new video. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. You'll find both the mini coffee carriers and the mini coffee cups in the mini catalog. The coffee cups come 8 to a package, and they do have the lids with them, and the carriers come 8 to a package. If you want 2 cups for every carrier, you'll obviously need to order 2 packages of these, but I'm excited to share some ideas with you today on how you can use these independently from the carrier. The carriers are already pre-cut and pre-scored for you, and you do not need any adhesive to put them together. Obviously, your box can be stamped, but I decided to use designer series paper. This red paper comes from the Heartwarming Hugs Designer Series paper. And while it's designed for Christmas, I love that Stampin' Up's Designer Series paper give you lots of options. So one side is themed for the occasion, and the other side can be used all year round. And this is concise with almost all the papers. This is going to really expound your purchase. Now, I've cut mine strategically at 2 inches by 9 inches because I know there's going to be an interlocking section here where the creases are for the sides of my box. Since I know the front of my box is going to create the presentation, I'm actually going to start by adhering it here. Now, I do recommend liquid glue for this for several reasons. I found that when I constructed the box, there was less buckling here. In addition to that, it gives you a little bit of time to kind of shimmy this up and down. I'll be using my silicone craft sheet, which I absolutely love here in the studio. Liquid glue, hot glue, and adhesive will not stick to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what is my wrong side, and I am going to add a small amount of liquid glue. Now, I'm not much of a glue girl because I tend to use too much of it, so I'm going to share a couple tips with you. You want nice thin lines. You don't want to use a lot because obviously you don't want it oozing out the sides. But you want to make it close enough to the sides that you're going to be able to make sure that it's adhered to the seams of the box. I'm moving my silicone craft sheet underneath me, and I'm starting here in the center. Now, I purposely made this paper narrower than the actual panel it's going to go on, and that's because I wanted to leave some of that crumb cake box showing. Now, once I'm happy with that, I'm going to flip that over, and this now is going to come to the back side, and then we're going to press that in place. Now, I'm going to flip that over, and I'm just going to burnish that to make sure that that's good and stuck. Now, what I want you to do next is I want you to open up this crease, and you're going to notice that the Designer Series paper is going to lift at the corner, but that's what we want because we want this to go around that corner. So you're going to see I'm going to flatten the box once again, and I'm going to go back over this. The excess glue that's here is going to hold this down to the box once it dries. Now we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. I've got my other piece of Designer Series paper here, and we're going to apply the glue very thin around the edges. Holding the box flat once again, I'm going to line up my pattern, which in this case is very, very simple because of the stripes, right along the other edge of that finished piece. I'm looking to try to keep it as straight as I can, and then we're just going to press as it goes across. Now this is where the glue is really handy because if you need to push it up or down, you can. We'll flip that over and we'll do the exact same thing now on this side that we've done on the other side. And I'm looking to align those creases and then press that in place. I like to flip it over and make sure it's exactly where I want it and then secure it. And just like we've done, we are going to open this up again, and you're going to see that the Designer Series paper is exposed. If you need to add more glue, you can absolutely do so now. Just use it sparingly. And then what you're going to do is you're going to crease around that edge. And then I like to flatten out my box when I do so and then tack that in place. Now that our box is constructed, let's talk about putting the bottom together. I'm going to take the open end here, and that's going to go down. The tabs are going to fit down inside of the box, and then this end with the tab is going to pop inside of here, and that creates the perfect interlocking box bottom. The mini coffee cups have the base as well as the lid. I like to assemble it before I decorate it just because it makes it a little bit more sturdy. I'm going to be using the Warm Hugs bundle. This is the stamp set and the coordinating dies. Now the dies are really brilliant for these cups because included in the die set are two pieces that actually create the wraps. And since there are two pieces, you're able to die cut them at the same time on your die cutting machine so that you can make one continuous wrap per cup. Now I'm going to be making 2 cups today, one of which I already have finished for you, and then I'm going to give you some alternate ideas as well. I'm going to start by connecting these, and for this I'm going to use my Stamp & Seal Plus. I'm going to place adhesive right here along that tab. Using the silicone craft sheet will ensure that I don't get adhesive on my work surface. Any excess I can kind of just turn back on itself, and then these two are going to get connected here. That's going to create the wrap for the cup. But I decided I wanted to trim mine to make it a little bit fancier, and that's where these 2 eyelet dies come into play. One is a little bit longer than the other. Just before you joined me, I went ahead and I die cut those for us. The longer one will go at the top, and the shorter one will go at the bottom because of the curvature. And I did die cut another set for the other side. What I like to do is I like to flip this over and I add adhesive along the top edge. Now, of course, you can use liquid glue for this. I'll take my longer edge and I'm going to line that here up at the top along the edge, deciding how much I want to show. And then we'll tack that in place. I'm going to flip this over again and I'm going to add adhesive now along the back side. Taking the shorter eyelet edge, I'll now line up the outside edges. I'm looking to try to keep them as even as possible, and then I'll tack that in place. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing now on this side. The brilliance of this die is how they line up. So I'm able to line up and continue the pattern all the way across the top as well as the bottom. Now, once your wrap has been put together, it's a matter of just connecting it. So here on that tab, we'll add more adhesive. This time, any excess adhesive, I'm not worried about pushing it back on top of itself because it's actually going to aid in holding it on the cup. And then I'll just bring those 2 ends together and just press them in place. The Stamp & Seal Plus is very, very strong. I'm going to leave the seams for my wrap to the side so that the presentation is nice and smooth on the front. Now let's talk about decorating this. I have a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock here, and I'll be using my Real Red ink pad. From the coordinating stamp set to those dies, I'll be using the small heart. I love this because there are dies for these pieces as well as the images, which makes creating your cards and your 3D projects quick and easy. I also love the cute greetings. I'm going to ink that up in the Real Red ink and I'll stamp that here. This also has a coordinating die, which I'll die cut. Now that we have our heart, I went ahead and I pulled out a couple other dies from that die set, and I'm going to be using those on separate pieces of paper. I've used this one on the crumb cake, which left me this really cute open circle, and I've used the stitch circle here on the Whisper White. I also used this really fun shaped die to create a layer here for my circle. And I'm going to add adhesive to the back side of the designer paper. I place this here in the middle of the white stitched circle. Now I decided that I wanted this to have a little bit of a 3D effect, so I'm going to take my circle and I'm going to flip that upside down, and I'm going to be using mini dimensionals. My Take Your Pick tool with that paper piercing tool attachment really helps me when I'm using these small dimensionals. Not only does it help me place them where I want them, it allows me to remove those paper backings. This circle now is going to go in the middle of these 2 layers. And finally, we have our heart. I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to be placing a full-size dimensional there for this one, and I'll remove that backing as well. Now this area is rather tight, so I want to share a tip with you. I actually attached the sticky side of the dimensional here to my paper piercing tool, which allowed me to position this more perfectly inside the opening. Now you'll notice that this is flat and this is curved, so I want to share another tip with you. I took my bone folder and I very carefully just curled this paper. That slightly just breaks down the fibers and will allow it to adhere to that band a lot easier. I've flipped it over and I'm going to add 2 dimensionals to tack this to that wrap. I'm going to place them here and here on either side, and then again we'll remove those backings. That now will get attached here to the center of the coffee wrap. And here's my cup. I'll go ahead and I'll slide this on, pushing it near the top, and it fits perfectly. I created one more before you joined me, so I now have 2 for my coffee carrier, 1 for each side. But let's talk about the tag. I cut a piece of Whisper White cardstock. This is 2 inches by 3.5 inch, and I'm using the delightful tag topper punch. This does all the work for you. Make sure this is flat on your work surface, and make sure that it slides within the gauge of the track, pushing it all the way to the back of the punch. Then use the heel of your hand and that will punch out the top. Since mine is going to have a Get Well theme, I took that greeting from one of my favorite healing stamp sets, and it's called Healing Hugs. Lots of great sentiments in here for Get Well and some really beautiful, realistic phototype image stamps. I'll use my Real Red ink pad and I'll ink that up, and I'm going to stamp that here. I'm going to switch over to the crumb cake ink, and I've got that small heart that we did in red once before, and this time I'm going to stamp it down here to bring continuity to my project. We've got our carrier and our cups here, and we have our tag. To keep with the coordination of my project, I decided to use two different braided trims. I have the natural as well as the red. Since the tag topper punch creates the hole for you as well, I'll just go ahead and I'll thread both of those here through the top. I'm going to bring this through the handle here, and then we're just going to create a bow. And I'll lay this down so that you can see it a little bit better. I love big whimsical bows on my 3D projects. So super cute, but you're thinking, well, how is this a gift? So let me show you what I've done. One way it can be used is by presenting it like this with one of your favorite herbal teas, which I have boxed here. So that would be a great Get Well gift in itself. This can also be substituted with some of my favorite things: a package of travel Kleenex, a cup of soup, and a couple of your favorite tea bags. A great Get Well package. But I want to share another idea with you. Since these cups can be customized for any occasion, consider birthday or even showers, they can be used independently, which means you can open them up and then fill them with other goodies. You can also use these to hold chocolates, small gifts, a nice fuzzy pair of socks for a Christmas gift. Lots and lots of fun ways. So regardless of how you decide to use your cups and your carrier, I hope that this will give you some ideas on how you can gussy them up for friends and family, whether with a Get Well theme or for the holidays. You'll be able to find all these products in the current Stampin' Up! Catalogs. Now, if you don't already have a demonstrator, you can request one over at lisasstampstudio.com. We'd be happy to send you one. If you have enjoyed today's video and the tips that I've shared, I would appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up here on YouTube, which is a like. It certainly helps. And I look forward to having you join me next time. Have a great day.